Welcome to Compassionate, where we talk about compassion for yourself. Today's guest shares openly about her sensitive journey to becoming the homeschooling spokesperson for Italy. Here is my dear friend and colleague Erika Di Martino. I know Erika for almost 6 years now, maybe even more, 7. And our common life theme is going beyond systems. And you never strived to be the homeschooling person, the advocate for Italy. It just came upon you. So without the compassion for yourself and for others, I am so certain there wouldn't be so many homeschooled children in Italy nowadays. And your strong compassion for not only for yourself and for the people in your past, but also for your children and all the other families. So without the compassion for yourself and for others, learning through mistakes, there wouldn't be so many homeschooled children in Italy nowadays. And when you were 4 or 5, I think you moved back from California to Italy. You were born in Italy. And then you went straight back into the Italian school system.
Absolutely, yes. That is my story.
Yeah. And yes, please say.
I don't have, a lot of memories of that time. I have some highlights. I know everybody has a different experience when they remember their past, when they remember their childhood. I do remember, though, that there was some form of change, really definitely a big change in how my life, how my routine was. And I recall living with my grandmother at their house for a period, and it was immersed in nature with fields, trees, animals. And then we moved to a city in a small apartment where I did start schooling, as you said. And, I always thought that I have a very different experience of feelings. When I was a child, I kind of felt that everybody was different because I felt very, very much what was going on around me. And so when I remember now, I remember these 2 moments of my life, one of extreme peace and, being in unison with nature, which is still really important to me up until today. And then, the school system, and basically not understanding the dynamics as a little girl, as a 5-year-old, trying to be part of it, but not quite knowing how to fit in. And that's the feeling I had. The feeling, of course, of wanting to be with my family, wanting to be close to my parents, but knowing that they had to work, thus justifying them in their choice of putting me into school. I had the feeling, though, that something was wrong, that something was not going how it was supposed to, that I was lacking, but also that I was feeling too much. And I think this is a lot of thinking for a 5-year-old, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So when you imagine yourself at school, you're a little girl with your pouch, on all your experience in the little pouch. What were you thinking? How we were talking all about compassion for yourself, and compassion for others. What were the principles, the beliefs that you had back then as a very little girl?
Well, I remember, as I said, that I did understand the dynamics behind even the wrong things that I saw, things that were done to me as well. I was very young. It was like a feeling of self-awareness, that arrived even to others. It reached out to others. When other children, and how school can be tough. There's bullying, there's everything. Kids are frustrated, and thus they react sometimes in very harsh ways towards each other. But I felt bad for myself, but I also felt bad for them. It was very, I felt this strong compassion, this strong feeling of understanding. Doesn't mean that I was a saint at all. I suffered and I cried, and and I was very I debated within myself, why were people doing it, why were they acting like that, but then I gave myself the answer as well. And this is really bizarre because I was very, very young, and I loved my parents and I still love them dearly, but I did wonder why they were putting me in such a situation, why they would, but then again, I think it's ignorance, right? As in not ignorance in a bad way, but
Mm.
ignoring what's going on. So I cherish that so much, and I think it's great that I can remember and I can use it in my everyday life now. I think it really boosts empathy when you're a highly sensitive child, because you start collecting all these treasures along the way as you grow, and then as you get older, you have them there at your disposal, and it's so much easier to help people, to understand people, to see how things are playing, you know, under the official the official idea that's being portrayed. And so I'm really grateful. I mean, it was tough, and I would never go back. Sometimes you hear people say, oh, I wish I'd go back to high school, or I'd go back to being a kid, and I'm like, no, please. I had enough. I had enough. I had enough. But yes, that was the situation, and I think there's a lot, really a lot of good stuff in the bad stuff.
Yeah, yeah. So my clients, well, a very large percentage of them did experience not so pleasant things in school, and it does affect them in later life. It can really alter your life and give it a different course in life. So, can you explain for our viewers, how did it feel? How did it manifest when you were bullied?
Okay, so I think that we, as highly sensitive people, we intuitively connect, and we try to understand. We attempt to understand what's going on with the other person. It's like we don't think about ourselves, not immediately at least, but we go and we see and we look and we try to connect emotionally with the other person. And this is kind of impossible when you're being bullied, and especially when you're a child. So, your knowledge of the world and how things are is limited to a child point of view. And you become overwhelmed. This is kind of the tragedy, because you're trying to understand others and you're being, at that point, bullied. It happened to me in school, and it's interesting now when I think about it, because I wonder, I say, well, why wasn't I more vocal about it? Why didn't I ask for help? Why didn't I tell people? But I think I did, but I did in a way that they did not understand. My way of communicating was probably, again, very emotional. Sometimes when you're like this, you feel that people can understand you, like you understand them. But it's not the case. And that's another thing that you learn when you're a kid and you're highly sensitive. You think that everybody is like you, but then you kind of find out that it's not, it's
Mm-hmm.
not like that. And it's surprising. It's incredibly surprising. So as I said, I was bullied in school, mainly in recess, during the just 10 minutes, that hour in the afternoon. There were several ways of bullying. There's not only the physical bullying, which did happen, and it was dreadful. But I think even worse was the psychological bullying, the fact of not being part of the group, the fact of, being picked on, and because of, I was different, of course. I was different. I was highly sensitive, and that was it, but nobody knew and nobody spoke about that in the 80s. But again, I was, the American girl in Italy. I was the one who would spend her summers in the States, and that looked like something elite. And actually, I was going, to see my grandma. There was nothing special about that. And I usually thought, oh, look at my friends. They get to have their summer free with their friends and going around and visiting. And I'm at my grandma's house. But on the outside, that looked like some sort of privilege that I could travel overseas yearly. So this happened, and as I said, I tried to interpret what other people were doing, why they were doing it, and then I would try fixing it. Sometimes I would try going to the bully and saying, can we talk? Or what's going on? Is there a problem in your life? And this is it's ridiculous if you think about it with children in that context. It's just not how it's done. So after a while, I just, decided to let everything go. I just decided to accept it for how it was. And I started thinking, how can I get out of it? How can I get out of it? And overthinking is one of the traits. And I did think a lot. My journey, we're talking now when I was 6, 7, 8, and I was bullying in primary school, and then moving on to middle school. Let's say middle school is a key moment. Middle school is when I actually had a plan of what I could have done to get out of that circle, out of that loop of pain.
Mm-hmm.
At that point, I had understood that my parents were absorbed in their everyday life, and there was not real connection on that level. I could not, and it's dramatic. It is for a child to understand that. I was always open. I was always seeking, if there was anyone that, and eventually I did find, and this I must thank so much, I did find along the way some people, and this is important. This is so important. Some people along my way that I did see, I did connect with, and maybe it was just a brief look of someone in the street, or maybe it was a friend of a friend or a family friend who, through how she was talking to me and, her examples and her way of welcoming me in her house. And as I said, it's different people, but it makes a difference. So if you are out and about in the world, you can make a difference. If you connect even just briefly with someone. It can be the frustrated mother in line at the supermarket because her toddlers are going crazy. It can be, the businessman that you work with who, talks and talks and never stops talking, and you're thinking, oh my goodness, this guy is arrogant. But then you can look better and you say, no, maybe he does need attention. There can be so many ways where we can impact others, even though it's just a brief encounter. And I really cherish, and I remember fondly these people that along the way made me understand that helped me understand that I was not strange, that I was not out of this world, that I was acceptable, that my thoughts were okay. And this is something I hadn't thought about. So anyway, along the way as a kid, growing up and going into adolescence and thinking, I was a little bit overweight too. And, nutritious meals and diets and, just healthy eating wasn't part of my.
Yeah, you disconnected from your body and.
Well, yeah, I disconnected from my body. And it also, I think when you're a kid, it's a lot has to do with your family, and if your family and how much time to dedicate to preparing meals and everything. This is one of those great things I really hold as important in my kids' life right now, talking about them with proper nutrition and how the body works, and because it's all connected. I mean, it's not like something outside of you, it's inside of you. So that's really good. All these things that happened to me, again, I don't want to say, I wish it hadn't happened. I'm happy it happened.
Mm-hmm.
And I came to the conclusion of this, not recently actually, because it is such a wonderful teaching when you go through this emotional roller coaster, because you become a great listener. And a lot of my job now is listening carefully to what people have to say. I'm a family consultant regarding home education. And not only, because of course, when we talk about home education, when we talk about education, then, everybody is involved, the whole family. It's not a box that you can say, I pick from this, I pick from that. As you know, where there's unity, there is unity in this. And so I'm a great listener. And I think I got to this point and my life guided me. As you said, I had no expectations. I still have no expectations. I'm just open and curious. And I let my life guide me, one thing after the next. And if I can actually be useful, I am. And a lot of it is because I listened, and I was bullied, and I stopped, and I thought, and my parents were busy, like a lot of parents in the 80s. and I was I'm an only child. I think that's also part of it. I don't know how my life would have been if I had had siblings. You know, who knows? But of course, when you're an only child and you have things happen to you. My parents both got ill during my childhood. My mom has MS. This is a chronic disease, and at the moment she's on a wheelchair. And my dad got cancer when I was a teen. So I always wonder how would it have been if I had had someone besides me, a relative, a brother, a sister. But when you're an only child, you have it all on your shoulders. But then again, okay, that's more good stuff for me to go through, and I can use it again.
Yeah, yeah. So you were from the disconnection. You decided I'm going to go to Paris when you finished high school, right?
Yes. Actually, this is also bizarre. When I was in middle school, and that's the years 11, 12, 13, that's when I prepared a plan. I prepared a plan because a lot of my friends from primary school followed up in middle school. And then again, when I would going to high school, it would have meant changing friends because it was a bigger school, it was new people. And I felt a bit like a caterpillar for the last year of middle school, because I decided to change myself. I decided to have a new start. And again, at the age of 12, 13, planning a makeover sounds a bit bizarre, but I really was desperate to fit in. And I did see, and I knew in all those years of watching and listening, the exact recipe to fit into society. And do that. So I cocooned for that last year of middle school, and I changed myself, especially physically, but also emotionally. Physically, I became anorexic. I became anorexic because I wanted to lose weight. I know anorexia is a huge problem, and it's addressed at the moment, properly, improperly, but at least it's being addressed in some way. In the 80s and 90s, of course not. There were the first cases, but in Italy, absolutely nothing. And it's also because, as I said, there was a lack of connection probably with my parents, and a lot of anorexia. It's linked to food. Food is love. Food is life. And I wanted to shut that out. But I did it just for as long as I needed it to acquire the shape that I wanted. So also in that, I looking back, I'm thinking, it's not like you were lost in anorexia. Maybe sometimes I wasn't so aware of what was going on, but the moment that ended and I was slim and fit and I could do whatever I wanted, I interrupted it. So it was like a switch on, switch off. I was ready for high school. I had a more outgoing personality. I am an introverted. And you would never say that about me, but I am. I could go on a mountain right now and disappear, and I would be happy. And believe me, I'm a mom of 5 children. And it sounds absurd. I'm a mom of 5 children. I'm on media all the time. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, you name it, Telegram, everything. People know a lot about me in my life, but I'm an introvert. And I love it. I love being alone. I love spending my time alone. I am not scared of solitude. Actually, when you were talking about Paris, I spent 2 years there alone. Alone, yes.
Without interference of family and others, yeah.
Exactly. After those 5 years of high school, when I did everything I could, I was school president, I was class president, and then I became school president. When you're a kid, these things count. I worked in a radio, so I could everything, very open, always using my voice, using my experience. I was a speaker in a local radio for several years. And then I said, okay, time for a break. I achieved what I had to achieve. I'm a highly achiever, got a good grade in high school, got out, got my driving license. That was all I could do at 18, right? And then I got a ticket and I traveled to Paris, where I decided to stay for nearly 2 years. And I got a job, I got a studio. You know how difficult it is for an 18-year-old to get a contract. But no house sharing, no friends, not many at least. I mean, I did have a few friends, but no more partying. And I was a party goer for that high school time. Again, it's like a switch. I was like, okay, got enough. Now, and it was bittersweet in Paris. Paris is lovely. And it's very romantic. If you tell someone, oh, I spent 2 years in Paris, everybody goes, oh, wow, especially non-European people. They're like, oh my goodness, that must have been amazing. The food and the landscape and the beauties and the cheese. And I'm like, yes and no, because I was kind of, on my own and doing my own thing. I learned French wonderfully. I think that if you guys are interested in languages and you're highly sensitive and you listen empathically to people, you are also good in languages. I don't know if there's a connection here. Maybe Susanne can tell me, but I just noticed it's very easy for me to pick up the musicality of the language and the idiomatic sentences and all that. It's always been like that. And I think these ears, when you're open and you're listening, generally speaking, then it happens with languages too. I don't know. Again, is there a connection with this? Is there or not?
We have for sure we have a talent for observing things and connecting those. So for the non-verbal language, the auditory, and even how the words look visually. So, and we can combine those. So yes, right brain people. But you also taught foreign languages, right?
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. So I don't know, I think that highly sensitive people are also idealists. Tell me if I'm wrong. We know what the world should look like. We know how people should behave. And, above all, we see this idea of peace and harmony and as all things, it's beautiful and it's terrible at the same time, because then you long for that and you see that in society, it's not happening. And so you get frustrated. I think that after those 5 years in high school, what I was trying to, and striving, even actively, as I said, it's not politics, but it is politics, when you start dealing with the needs of the students and other things, and you start, you're on a panel with the teachers and the principals and all that. And I needed a break because I did see that my ideas were not being received. And that happened again throughout my life, where I have an ideal and I strive to get there, and then it doesn't happen. This is in my younger part of my life. Now I'm so old. I tend not to do that. I've grown into acceptance, and I think that's another stage of life. When you're young, you kind of want things to be ideal, and it's not a power thing. Absolutely not. You're out of this picture. It's just a very idealistic idea of principles, as we're saying, and just community and peace and love and understanding. And then as you grow older, you understand that there are other ways that are more effective for helping that, because it's not going to be you to create it. It's happening. You're just helping it. You're supporting it. The position is different. This is what happened to me. It happened that I shifted from being active in also sometimes a harsh way. And then here, if we want to talk about when my child, was in preschool, that's another big part of my life, that helped change. So let's just fast forward after being a hermit in Paris.
While you're talking about school, tell me, because many sensitive parents also experience this, how did it feel for you as a parent when that preschool teacher said to your son, if you don't put on your shoes and you stop crying, I will never take you to your mother again? How did that feel?
I was speechless. I'm a person that talks a lot, but I was left speechless, and it was a mixed emotion. First of all, I have, and I think we have, insight, right? There's that little voice in us. I say us. Can I say us? I'm talking to highly sensitive people. So we have that little voice inside us. Listen to it. Oh my goodness, listen to it, please. Please do, because it speaks truthfully, and it's there for a purpose. So there was a part of me when I was approaching preschool with my child, who at the time was four, my firstborn. I have five now, and I had the other one that was a baby. It was that situation where everybody says and pushes you, saying, "Oh, you better put him into school. You put him into preschool like that. You will have some time for yourself. That's because you have a newborn. That's because you are pregnant. So you didn't." And that it never really sounded right, but I didn't listen to it carefully. That's the big thing. We got to listen to ourselves, people.
Yeah, but life it also takes you where you have to go sometimes.
That's true. There's a lot of interference in the world today, even more than usual, because we have these telephones that follow us everywhere, and other things. So I knew that something wasn't right. Okay. The child wasn't happy, but he'll get used to it. I was like, oh, really? Get used to it? That sounds so incorrect. And when it happened, what you just described, and this teacher, and he speaks English, so I had taken him to an English preschool where the teachers would speak his language, because I wanted him, even though we were in Italy, to feel welcomed, of course, right? To feel understood, to feel that he could communicate properly, because I was thinking, again, overthinking or thinking. I was like, oh, if I put him in an Italian school, then he's going to communicate in English. Maybe they won't grasp what he says, and then they will not cater to his needs. And this is all thinking going on in a mom's head. But then again, when I hear this woman state in English that he will never see his mom again if he doesn't put his shoes on, and he's bawling and he's screaming and he has to be quiet, because if not, he's not going to see his mom. I mean, I was frozen. I was literally frozen, and I didn't have the energy to see anything. I didn't have the words to speak, and I feel bad about it a bit, because people always say to me when I tell this story, "So what did you do?" Like if I was going to come down with a sword, and do something. And I didn't do anything, or at least I as soon as I could, after this happened, he was brought out to me, and I took him, and I never went back. Mm-hmm. And that's what I did. And I do feel defeated at times, because I wish I had said something, but again, actions speak more than word. And they lost a client, and and a lot of people know this story now. Anyway, so, but I at the moment, I had no way to say something to that woman. And so I took him away, and it was a great teaching, because then after that, and I had a few other similar situations, where things happened. I'll tell you this one that for me, it's so important too. And it's related to empathy. Now, we know maybe my children, at least some of them, are going to be highly sensitive. And Susanne, because you saw them, right?
Yeah,
so better than I.
They're so talented. Yeah.
So when my little one, the same kid here, he was in another situation in preschool. He came back from school, and he said to me, "Mom, we were all sitting at the big table, and we were coloring in a picture. And there was one of my friends, classmates, and we're talking 3-4-year-old kids again. He was desperate, Mom. He wanted to go home. He wanted to see his parents, and he put himself in a corner, and he was crying and crying and crying, Mom. And you know what? I wanted to go hug him. I wanted to go tell him that his mom would be there soon, and it would soon end, and that, it was okay. But Mom, my teacher said I couldn't get up. I could not leave the table, that I had to stay there and color in the picture." And, super flashback, bang, hitting me, this is me, not my son. Actually, I'm the kid crying in the corner. And there's another human being who wants to come and help me, but he's incapacitated, because the system says that coloring a picture is more important than going to hug a friend. And that was it. You're like, what? You did another thing to have him, but that was another group, that one isn't in one school. And then there was another school we tried. As I said, I'm I'm not the person that's like, oh no, we're going to do it this way. I'm always ready to see and listen and understand and try. But after that, I was struck. I was like, this is it. This is it. This is empathy that is flourishing, and it's beautiful, and we're chopping it down.
Yeah.
And we're chopping it down.
Yeah. And from there, your homeschooling journey evolved. You started with one blog. Do you have it framed?
No, it's still on. It's still on. It's still going. Yeah. I don't have time to dedicate it. I don't have that much time now to dedicate to writing. But it's still there. It still has subscribers. It's still being followed, and I still get comments on old posts. So it's still alive.
Yeah, wonderful. And from there, from the blog, you wrote other articles. Then you did conferences.
Yes.
Yeah, if you're in Italy, please attend. I've been to one. I participated. It's a really beautiful memory to have with your children.
Thank you.
Yeah, it really
Thank
is.
you. And I would love to do something together. We should do something together, because I think that highly sensitive parents and highly sensitive children are prone to choose homeschooling for their natural ways of being. And, even instinctively, they're drawn towards this more accommodating and open and free and, expressing way of educating. And yes, so I started with a blog where I simply described what was happening in our lives. And at the time, we're talking, this was 2010, 2011, when I started the blog. I saw that there was a huge interest into whatever we were doing. And I don't think it's just out of curiosity. I think people were touched because they felt that there was something wrong, or something that didn't really fit in their picture with their kids in school and the whole routine and lifestyle that they were being subjected to in many ways. And I wrote a book, and I have it here. I wrote a book
please show.
In 2012. There's this book.
Yeah.
There's my book. It's in Italian. A lot of people are like, oh, do you have it in English? No, I don't, because it's relevant to Italy. I mean, in Italy at the time, there was no book on homeschooling, on home education. So I wanted to tell stories about other people. So it's not only about us, it's mostly about other people and other families that picked homeschooling for a year, 2 years, or for a lifetime. And it has the bureaucratic section, because the know-how is important as well.
Yeah.
And this is 2012. And then we realized that people did not only want, in Italy, people did not only want to have information, but they wanted to be connected, which is so important. And then we created a network that is the Italian National Network of edupar.it, where I'm the founder, and my husband does all the technical parts, and we work as a team. But then again, see, the reason behind all this has always been a reason of creating connection, of giving support. And I never, at the beginning, there was no idea of turning this into a job. I was just, a mom, an English teacher, because I am an English teacher. I teach English, and I was in schools at the beginning, and I couldn't stand it. That's another interesting part. I was in the school system teaching English, and at that point, after a year, I said, this is not for me, because I am wasting my time. And I had the guts to leave a job that could have been, the perfect job. It paid. They hardly ever kick you out. So, but I said, no, this is not how I want to spend my time. My time is so precious. Why would I ever spend it in a classroom where half of the kids are not interested, and when I can't communicate with the principals and my colleagues, because we're all on different planets. So, I shifted to private teaching, and now I'm teaching homeschoolers. So a little bit of my work is helping homeschoolers love English, which is not teaching. I'm just having them have fun with the language. Yeah. Because I think it's all about emotions. It's all about feelings. If we can't learn if we're stressed, we can't learn if we're sad, if we're angry, if we're scared. And how many kids are put in that condition in school? They're even hungry sometimes. How can we learn if we're hungry? But, especially in Italy, there are so many restrictions in the school system. kids can drink at a certain time. They can use the bathroom at a certain time. Come on.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't this part of freedom? Aren't we teaching them at a young age that their freedom is, put on the stake by someone in a higher position? That doesn't make much sense to me. So anyhow, we created the network even to reach out to more people. And then the third step has been creating an e-learning area on the network, because again, a lot of people do want to start homeschooling, but they don't know where to start from and they don't know what to do. And so we wanted to give even support, educational support to the parents, to the kids, ideas that then they can adapt. Of course, it's not and another thing that I really would like to talk about, Susanne, is this book. Because
Yeah,
I think this
I was
book
wondering,
also,
I wanted to ask you.
this book is called The World is My Classroom. And this is translated in all languages. You can find this in Spanish, in German, in English. You can find it in any language, almost every. We don't have it in Chinese yet, but
Okay.
I don't know how the
Dutch?
government. Can we do it in Dutch? Oh, I would love to.
I will do the translation.
I would love to. But what is this book? This book, okay, so as I started doing conferences and talking to people, I realized, and even looking at my own children at the time, we're talking, even 10 years ago. So they were different. They felt different. And, if you're a highly sensitive person, you think of how people think and how people feel a lot. And I was feeling for these children who were homeschooling, and maybe they were 6 or 7 or even younger. And around them, there's the whole world doing another thing. There's a whole mainstream world of kids rushing out, chasing buses without having had breakfast and crying and heavy backpacks and homework hours and hours on end in the afternoon. And I was like, how are these kids going to feel if they are, because, in Italy, the whole situation, now it's picking up homeschooling, especially now, but, and we're in 2020. So time has gone by, but there was a time, and I think in some areas there still is, where children felt different and they felt strange. And, when you're little and you're the only one that does something, maybe you feel like it's wrong, or you question things. And so I created this book where the protagonist is a little girl, and there's no villain in this book. There is no, I don't know, there's no mystery, there's no crazy story going on, but it's I'll show you, it's an illustrated story. Here, this is a part where the Susanne, who's a little girl, and her brother hang around with a neighbor, and they just, they get into talking, and they talk about World War II, and they share experiences and feelings. And so it's basically the story of a day in the life of Susanne, who,
That was a sign,
wakes up.
Erika.
Yeah.
There was a sign, the name. Susanna.
Did it skip?
No, there was a sign.
I didn't even connect. It's you.
Yeah. And you can hear me because of a bad internet connection. That's why.
So yes, Susanne, this was, an insight of the future. This is you. She actually has kind of red hair, if you can see.
Yeah.
So what do you like for breakfast? She's eating kiwis.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, that is hilarious. And Susanne, yes, it's you. And she goes about her life, and she learns, and she does things, and she's not left out. And her mom works. Okay, power to the women who can, there's mom working, and she's helping out. There's there's a lot of elements here that, again, maybe this is my ideal that became a book for children. But the main reason, again, was to have children who are homeschooling or are thinking about homeschooling, the parents are thinking about it, have a book where the protagonist is actually living life like they are. And I thought, if you can relate to a book, because as a kid, as I said, I was a lot alone, and I read a lot, and reading and books are one of my favorite pastimes. And I related a lot with the characters in the books. And I think that it's just as good, of course, it would be better if we had someone live like this, but it's just as good if you read of someone, and they're similar to you and they share your feelings. And so this is kind of like a legacy that I leave to kids, that they can, see themselves. And I think
I fully understand.
That can help.
Yeah, yeah. So I will write down the titles in the comments below later. So it's really nice to follow your journey, especially because you didn't intend to homeschool in the beginning.
You're breaking up.
Yeah? Okay. How is it? Oh yeah, I also see you in fragments now. Yeah.
Okay, now it's coming back to normal.
Yes. So it's really nice to follow your journey, to see where you came from questioning to bewildering and amazed at what you saw. Then you mentioned angry and warrior-like, and it's like you're in your third evolution now. How would you describe it?
Well, it's first of all acceptance of the things around us. Yeah, I'm really enjoying this third phase. I really am, and I'm excited to see what comes after this. I think that one of the biggest understandings that I achieved in this time is that we're a unity, that we're one with everything. And this makes us feel better, makes me feel better, because I don't feel so different anymore. I just feel that I'm a cell in a bigger organism called humanity. And it's an ever evolving organism, of course. And I can do my job as a cell that has certain characteristics, and other cells are different, of course, but I don't have to justify myself. I don't have to overthink myself. I'm just what I am. And it's not only accepting of others and things outside of you. I think it comes along with the beauty of accepting yourself with your needs, with your feelings, with your emotions. I for example, I don't have many friends, and even again, society depicts all these movies and advertisements and ideas where, friendships is fundamental, and you have to have your best friend and the BFF, all stuff. And I'm finding it hard, for example, to explain to my children that it's okay to not have this long list of friends. And because they're kind of like me, we don't have that many close connections. We don't. And it seems strange, again, that we don't. I think we're careful to get close to people because we really sense people at an energetic level. And that's why a lot of times we're just like, okay, I'll pass. I don't need that right now. So it's a positive thing. And I can accept it now. I can accept it that I don't get close to everybody. That sometimes I'm at a dinner table and everybody's chatting away and I'm not. I'm just sitting there. And I used to feel awkward, but now I don't anymore. As I said, acceptance is the key, and feeling that you're part of something bigger, and that there's a reason, there's a purpose also for how you are. Yeah. I think it's a wonderful purpose, by the way, guys who are listening out there, because we can do so much for others. The calling that maybe you hear, listen to it and open up your life to it, because as I said, I never expected much from the homeschooling, my job, my everything. I just tend to give it all I've got with the energy I have at the moment, according to the situation. But still, it has changed my life. It's guiding me. I'm not pushing. A lot of people think that in life, you got to be pushed. Oh, you got to be pushed from the back to go there, to do this, to do that. Instead, I'm living a pull. Something is pulling me, and it's effortless. I'm just going. And there's a beauty in this, because I think it's because I understood this, that we are part of something bigger, and I don't need to push myself, but I'm actually following the current. I'm being pulled in a direction, and as I said, I'm open and curious to see what will unfold. And this impacts so many areas of your life. It impacts the trust that you have in your children, because a lot of homeschoolers struggle with trust, and they think that they have to do this, do that, the best curriculum. And I'm not saying that you have to be negligent at all. In all means, that's not where I'm going. But I also think that trust is a key element in home education, because you know this child is going to, you know, engage in life in his own particular way. And it might not be with the curriculum you've picked, and it might not be following the path you have foreseen. But if there's the element of trust, okay, then there's the pull, and you can go. And it impacts how you see, for example, money. That's another hot topic. Now, of course, you know, we all have our budgets and we have our income and we have to deal with that. But if you're feeling pulled and if you're feeling part of a bigger picture, then, you know, it's not, there's no worry. You enter a state of abundance. And I know this word has been used too much, and I don't want to use it that much, but it's not about having and, you know, chasing goals and doing this. It's that you appreciate what you got, and it's fulfilling just as it is. And then if eventually you'll have more or less money, you will continue doing what you're doing, and maybe in different ways. But I don't know if I'm expressing this clearly enough, because I feel it a lot, but maybe putting it into words can be difficult. And it sounds kind of silly, maybe, just saying, oh, okay, life is abundant, so I live in the middle of the street and I'm going to be happy. No, it's not that. Again, it's not just being helpless and not acting. You are acting, but you're doing it from a state of abundance. You're starting off not saying I'm lacking, or my child is lacking, or my marriage is lacking, but you're doing it as, you know, I'm abundant. I'm okay. Let's see what happens. Let's see. And it's the thought behind the action that counts.
Yeah, I fully understand. Yeah. I also followed my knowing, some call it their calling. And it is a roller coaster. It is, especially emotionally. But I'd rather follow my calling and my knowing in life than that I wouldn't, and at the end of my life think, oh, I could have done so many things for my purpose here on earth. So I do fully understand. Yeah.
Yes, and it's a roller coaster in the way that you have no idea what's going to happen next.
Yeah.
But then again, when you're accepting, you know, if my life were to change, and, you know, and all the effect I have is on my closest friends and family, I would be happy with that too. At the moment, I'm called to reach out to people everywhere, and given the technologies that we have and the opportunities that are given to me, I am doing it. But if it were to end, again, as an introverted, I would actually celebrate, and I would be happy. I would say, well, maybe this part of my life, you know, came to an end, and let's see how it will unfold in the next part. Again, open and curious is the key.
Yeah. And trust. Yeah, beautiful.
And presence. If we want to add the last one, I think it's presence.
Yeah.
Yes, because then again, you know, a lot of people tend to, and I used to too. This has changed so much, you know, in my highly sensitive life, that I was a lot in the future. I was always in the future, and I think a lot of highly sensitive people live their life in the future, trying to project, trying to organize. And I see it in my daughter. Oh my goodness, she's 13, and I see it in her, and she's very similar to me. Not at that age and stage, I was different, but I can see there's a relation there in how she's doing things, and I can tell, and she's definitely a highly sensitive young lady. She wants to organize. She's the one who wants to make lists. And I think another characteristic is, you know, trying to be precise and punctual, and I let go of that part. It's kind of like looking at myself, looking at her, how I was, and it's beautiful. It's beautiful. I try to give her, you know, the tools, but I know she's going to have her own path, and she's going to do what she needs to do to evolve. But it's lovely watching her with the knowledge I have now, and seeing how, you know, sometimes she's in the future, and I was in the future a lot. And now I tend to be a lot in the present, and just enjoying every moment. And again, this has been said so many times, and unless you live it, you're like, oh, what? Like, you know, look at the blade of grass, and what does this have to say to me, you know? But it's true. It's true. It's just like you're making the most of what you're doing now. And then you're ready for the next thing. It's like a clean slate every time. You're okay, fine, you know? what are we going to do next? Oh, there's this interview. Fine. Let's do that. There's kids fighting in the street. Let's go see what I can do over there. Let's do it. Let's go talk. Let's go see what I can do. And it's always renewing itself. And it's lovely because that helps you not have expectations. It helps you not to be, sad or deluded, or it's the way for me.
Yeah. You mentioned before that you said homeschooling parents are just parents who make a choice.
Yeah, they're just parents that make a choice. The world seems to like cutting things up and grouping them and labeling them. And, again, we're going against the idea of unity. A lot of the talk that's being made and a lot of the difficulties that are arising are due to this tendency of you and me, and you're different from me. And, even homeschoolers, let's see what's going to happen after the crisis of the pandemic now. What's going to happen to education? The world of education is right now on the brink of a humongous change, or going back to what it was before and collapsing, I think, driving itself even more into the ground. So we're like on the blade of a knife right now. So we can go in either one direction or the other. And I truly believe that a lot of people are awakening and listening more carefully. And probably awakening. I mean, I think maybe there's all those highly sensitive peoples that were kind of muffled, were kind of, held back, and now they have an opportunity because they had a pause. Somebody hit the pause button, and they connected with themselves because they didn't have all the interference that they usually have. And I'm so confident, you guys, get up and let's just be ourselves and show the world, how it could be. But not, again, trying to direct it, just expressing ourselves. And the world of education is going to change. And it's sad sometimes. You can actually see homeschoolers that are dividing, oh, I'm an unschooler, I'm a radical unschooler, what are you? You're just a homeschooler. Or, oh, my goodness, why would we ever spend time even debating about this stuff? Well, let's just get together. Let's just work. Or even not getting together, let's just get on with our job of whatever we're doing that we feel valuable. And less talking, less division, for a higher unity. It's so distracting. It's so distracting to
Yeah, that's true. I do want to say that you are not against regular public school or private school.
Oh,
it's
yes.
Something that came upon you in life, and now you help others to do the same, to listen to their that little voice inside of them, to help their children. So it's educational also in general. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And as I said, there's no conflict. There's no difference. The school system is the school system. It can definitely improve, but it's already doing, given the situation, it's doing a great job. But definitely it can improve, and it's not okay for everyone to follow that path. So it's nice that we have options, that we have the freedom to choose. And we must, the most important things, one of the challenges, that we have in some countries, in some places, and we have to use our powers to defend it and protect friends who are in the teaching system, and they're following a path, and they have their ups and downs, and we talk often and we discuss, and some of them have wonderful ideas. It's just that maybe in that system they cannot express themselves properly, and they cannot actuate them. So everything needs to have its own life and evolution and the right to be. We just have to be conscious enough, present enough to listen to ourselves and to make the choices where we feel pulled and not pushed.
Yeah. So as you can see, we can talk for hours. We're not finished, but we have to close now. Otherwise, we can't upload the interview of Compassionate. And I want to thank you, Erika. Thank you for being you. Thank you for all the things that you do in Italy for all the homeschooling parents and children. And can you please repeat your website and for people who want to contact you?
Susanne, I have to thank you from the bottom of my heart for inviting me and for all the good work you're doing towards highly sensitive people. I wish I had met you as a child. That would have been wonderful. That would have probably changed my life in a positive way, of course. Yes, my website's, okay, there's my website, erikadimartino.com, where you can find information on how to contact me. I can do conference calls in English and in Italian as well. And there's a network, the Italian Home Ed Network, that supports parents who are homeschooling, who are interested in homeschooling. It's edupar.it, that is edupar.it. And then there is my blog, controscuola.it. Thank you very much.
Yeah, great. So for all the viewers, if you have a question for Erika, just put it in the comments below. We are curious what you think of the interview. What things were familiar to you? What did you recognize from your past? With your children now, just let us know and we can explore it together. Okay. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thanks again. Bye.